Hello, welcome to BBC World News. The daughter of one of President Putin's close ideological allies, Alexander Dugin, has been killed in a bomb attack. Russian media says Daria Dugina died after her car exploded near Moscow. There's been no comment from the authorities. Same car, but at the last moment, Mr. Dugin decided to travel separately. Our Russian correspondent Anastasia Golubeva has been following events.
Daria Dugina and her father, Alexander Dugin, yesterday they were going from an event and they moved into cars, and it was reported that Alexander Dugin was supposed to be in the car with his daughter, but he switched cars at the very last moment, and the daughter's car exploded eventually, causing her death. And this is why the main belief right now is that it was an attempted killing on Alexander Dugin himself, not the daughter. It was an improvised explosive device. The version on who's behind the death yet, but there are already some speculations. The authorities of self-proclaimed Donetsk Republic said that they blame the explosion on terrorists of the Ukrainian regime, I quote they're saying, but Ukrainian authorities has already denied any involvement with this accident.
And just to explain Mr. Dugin's influence on Vladimir Putin.
Yes, Alexander Dugin is one of the most famous Russian philosophers, contemporary Russian philosophers and political theorists. He is a monarchist, he is very ultra-conservative, he's a nationalist, and his main ideas is that Russian empire needs to be restored. He believes that the Russian nation has some greater reason on this earth.
Well, Samuel Ramani is an Associate Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute for Defence and Security Studies. He told me more about the relationship between Alexander Dugin and the Kremlin.
So Alexander Dugin's ideology has, in the long range, shaped some of Putin's current thinking. So he's talked about the pivot towards a multipolar world order and the embrace of countries like China, Iran, Turkey, the collective non-West, as early as the early 2000s. He also, as early as 2008, was calling for sweeping military interventions in Georgia and Ukraine. So ideologically, he's influential, but his actual relationships with the Kremlin elites and Vladimir Putin himself is almost non-existent.
Right. Okay. Well, it's interesting that people call him Putin's brain then, isn't it? Is it? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because his ideology has shaped some of Putin's views, including the role of the special military operation. But he's one of many thinkers who's playing that kind of role. I mean, as is Ilyin and other fascists. And there's really no evidence that Alexander Dugin has spent any substantial time with Putin, or even for that matter, met or consulted with Putin regularly. So I think that that's a mischaracterization of his relationship.
What about his daughter then, Daria Dugin? She had been on television a lot saying very anti-Ukraine things, didn't she? Was very supportive of the invasion of Ukraine. Could she have been a target herself?
Well, I think it's most likely that it was the father who was actually the target of all of this. But Daria Dugina definitely has been promoting a lot of her father's views. She talked about the annexation of Donbass and effectively all of Ukraine except for the West. Dugin talks very frequently about how Moscow and Kiev have a shared history, that Russian history began in Kiev and it will end in Kiev, with them being all united together. She's talked about the self-cleansing of Russian society, which is a totalitarian phrase that's often used to purge out dissent against the war. So, and she's also talked about liberal Nazism, so which basically accuses all of Europe and the West of being infected by some kind of a Nazi ideology. So Dugina is certainly promoting her father's views, but I don't think she was actually the main target.
Samuel Ramani there from RUSI.